Now on Mississippi Insight, could Mississippi's HBCUs be at risk? Warnings of changes to the funding formula could have serious consequences. We'll talk with Senator Solly Norwood about what's at stake and what could happen next. Plus, new warnings from the DEA as fentanyl seizures continue across Mississippi. And the special agent in charge of the DEA's New Orleans Field Division joins us with what those seizures reveal and how the Fentanyl Free America campaign is working to keep families safe. This week on Mississippi Insight, it starts right now. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of Insight. Concerns are growing over the future of Mississippi's historically black colleges and universities. Lawmakers and community leaders are warning that changes to the state's higher education funding formula could put some HBCUs at risk, sparking urgent calls for action. We're joined now by State Senator Solly Norwood to discuss what's driving these concerns and what's at stake for Jackson State, Alcorn, and Mississippi Valley, and what lawmakers can do to protect HBCU funding in Mississippi. Senator, welcome to Mississippi Insight.
Thank you, Byron. Good to be here.
Talk to us about the concerns, the growing concerns that changes to Mississippi's higher education funding formula could threaten HBCUs, and what specifically is putting that concern in front of you right now.
Okay, first of all, Byron, thank you for inviting us on. But last week we had a significant gathering, and we had well over 500 graduates of HBCUs across the state to come together and talk about the challenges that we're experiencing, and any further change or any change to the funding formula. We just want the universities to be engaged and be involved to make sure that their interest is represented as well.
And when we're talking about this change, why is there a change being discussed at all?
Well, I mean, it's time for it to change, number one, but the change according to the formula that's currently in place right now, Jackson State would lose about $13 million. Mm-hmm. Mississippi Valley would use right around 30 plus million dollars, and the same thing would apply to Alcorn, which would be extremely devastating if that. So there's a need for the change. The formula that's in place has been a hold due to COVID, and now it's time to re-up the formula, but we just want to make sure some additions are made to the formula to make it more equitable.
And so if these changes happen at that level, what impact would it have on the three universities? It
would be devastating. It would be devastating. Just imagine Jackson State is already struggling. All three campuses need housing. And part of the formula would include student enrollment, but students have no place for the students to live. Jackson State had to turn away students every year, and it's going to be that. And if the students are housed off campus as they are now, that's an additional expense that goes to the university as well as those students. So it'll be extremely devastating if that would happen.
And so if a Valley or Alcorn loses $30 million, is that threatening to shut these schools down?
Well, it definitely will be a threat for Mississippi Valley. Definitely be a threat for Mississippi Valley. And one of the things that they're looking at is the graduation rate. But there again, about 44% of Mississippi Valley students are part-time students. So the Jackson State, Alcorn, and Valley all have individual identities. And when you put all of them together, it creates a real problem. So it would definitely be devastating for Mississippi Valley. It would be crippling for Jackson State as well as Alcorn and Delta State and the W.
Mm-hmm. Supporters of the funding formula say it's about fairness and efficiency. What do you believe HBCUs could do disproportionately? Why would it disproportionately harm the HBCUs?
Well, because when you look at the program, graduation rate, when you look at as they graduate, the fields that our graduates will go into, well, we don't have a law school. You don't have a medical school. Jackson State has an engineering school. Alcorn has a nursing school. Well, those are high-paying professions that they go into. So we're limited in terms of the professions that we can offer. So therefore, you're going to be limited in terms of the income that our graduates can make, and that's a problem. That's a measurement. So what we're saying is, 71% of the students at Jackson State are on Pell Grant. 21% of the students at the University of Mississippi on Pell Grant. So we're saying that in the changing of this formula include some provisions for low-income families or first-time students. You know, that would make it more equitable because they have more of a challenge coming in. So it's going to cost a little bit more. And as you go out and you recruit the students, and those are the students that's more inclined to want to be at Jackson State, Alcorn, Mississippi Valley, because it's kind of like a safe haven for them. They're not too far, and the nurturing that those students would need.
Some advocates are using strong language, talking about potential closures, as we talk about. How realistic is this a concern, and long term, what's the real concern about any of the schools closing?
We're very concerned about that. We're very concerned about it. You know, we've talked about it several years, but I think that we're at a point now where it's more critical than I think there's ever been. And that was the reason that the person showed up on Monday night, because of the greater concern that we have. So we're really concerned. We're calling on the alumni to become more involved, engaged. There are things that alumni can do. You know, I mean, we have become active in the Alumni Association. You have resources, give back to the university that would help to augment some of the costs that the university would have, and is not getting state funds to satisfy.
Dealing with the funding formula, is this something the legislature wants to get done this year, or is this something they're just talking about doing this year? Well,
I'll share with you the presentation that I was involved in. The College Board is stressing would like to wait until they have a consultant that's doing a rewrite of that. They want to wait until their consultant finishes, you know, their work. And there's a little difference in what I'm seeing from the College Board consultant would like to have some of the factors, go to the universities, talk to some of the staff, talk to the administrators there. I think that'll be more personable, and you get a feel of some of the real needs of Mississippi Valley, Jackson State, Alcorn, wherever. I think that you get more of a real feel of what's there. But yes, and their rewrite is not going to be available until around June, July. Well, the legislature is out in March, early April at the latest. And we want to do it. And if we do it before then, we won't take into consideration the recommendations coming from the College Board.
I know there was talk many years ago when Governor Barber was in office about reducing the schools, the state schools, and part of that was Jackson State would absorb some of Valley, and almost like it would be a satellite school, Jackson State. Is there still talk of something of that nature?
Well, I mean, I don't think the talk ever ceased, but it's not something that, you know, I'm certain we're not pushing. We want, each school has its own identity. We want them to maintain that, and we want to give them the resources to be successful, because they each would recruit different students. And I mean, you know, the students have different needs. The student at Mississippi Valley have a far greater need, or different need, I would say, than a student at Jackson State at Alcorn. And that's why you see 44% of Mississippi Valley students are part-time students, because many times they have to work, they have families, and then they come to the university. And when they have that, it hurts them in terms of the graduation rate, because those students are not counted in the graduation rate, which is not good.
Do we know how Mississippi's funding formula compares to other states when it comes to their funding of HBCUs? Well,
when you looked at there was a presentation from a gentleman from regarding Tennessee. I think it was Tennessee. Tennessee's funding formula, Texas, I believe it was Florida. Comparatively, they have some additional weights. And I think that that's what any new formula that we would adopt, I would hope have the additional weights. You know, it's an opportunity for more resources going toward children, students that come from low-income families. Like I said, they're disproportionately impacted because they need more assistance than a student that does not have that challenge. And when you look at all look at the poverty rate of Mississippi, and then, you know, we, in the different areas of the state, you know, the Delta is far different than than Jackson, and then Lorman is far different from the Delta. So I think it have more of an individual touch when they go out and when the consultants go out to the campus and talk to the administrators and have a conversation with the students alike.
What would help reduce funding mean in the real terms for students' programs, or cuts or tuition increases or staffing losses? What would that mean, and how would that play out?
Well, it would be extremely, there again, it would be extremely difficult because, you know, the programs, you know, we have engineering school, so if you cut funding going to the university, student aid, those student support, you cut the engineering program, that means we would have even far less students that would be able to get into engineering. Therefore, your growth is going to be affected on the other side because you won't have as many students that are graduating in high-paying jobs. Mm-hmm. You know, same thing in terms of Alcorn with the nursing school. So it would be extremely devastating, and part of where we are now, and I think when you look at it, I'm not saying that we do not need to revisit or rewrite the funding formula, but be more inclusive to satisfy or meet the needs of the individual students that are going to the various institutions.
What role does the legislature have when it comes to, I guess, drafting this funding formula and how it will turn out? What role do you all play in all this?
Well, from what I'm seeing and understanding is that we're going to draft it, and we would. There are consultants, obviously, that are working, but we're going to draft this, and it'll be presented to the body, and we'll vote up or down on this. When we have a couple of days to meet deadline, and so if it meets the deadline, we'll act on it this session, and the effective date obviously would be something that we would hopefully would be reasonable, that would allow us to consider what the College Board is planning, because there's a difference between what the College Board is planning now and what the legislature was planning.
Are you having meaningful conversations with lawmakers and your colleagues about the concerns of the HBCUs?
Well, they will be amped up this week, mm-hmm. because we intend to have more. We had some other legislation that we wanted to get done first, and I think we handled that yesterday. So now we would switch to trying to deal with university and college. What
message do you have to students and faculty and staff at HBCUs about what is going on here with the funding formula?
Well, I think it's time for all to pay attention to what's going on, be actively engaged, support your institution, join your alumni association, give back where you can, and encourage others to give back, and encourage your children, your colleagues to attend an HBCU. HBCUs have been very good in terms of turning out meaningful and prosperous individuals throughout the state of Mississippi in various capacities.
What should people be watching out for, or what should they be paying attention to moving forward while this is going on?
Well, I think that again, stay tuned to what's happening. We will keep the general public noticed as to when this committee is going to meet to discuss this. We welcome comments for it as to improve it, or if you have in support of it, you can let us know too why you support it.
Senator Charlotte Norwood, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and we'll be right back.
Tell us about, for members who do not know or maybe be familiar, what is the Drug Enforcement Agency's New Orleans Field Division's role right here in Mississippi?
The New Orleans Division is comprised of the 4-state region. It covers all the offices in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Arkansas. So our headquarters for that division, located in New Orleans, our name is the New Orleans Division. However, we have a handful of offices here in the state of Mississippi, to include right here in Jackson.
Awesome, okay. So new data shows synthetic opioid deaths are down, which is positive.
Yes, we're very excited about this. After several years now of a real intense focus of enforcement and working with our partners and educating Americans, we are seeing some great trends to the positive side. As you and I'm sure plenty of your viewers know, that for several years now, the entire country, every community has been gripped by this overdose epidemic that happens primarily with synthetic opioids like fentanyl.
Okay. So even as overdose deaths decline, as we just talked about, I mean, the DEA warns the threat is evolving. So what are you seeing on the ground right now in Mississippi?
So as far as fentanyl and the other synthetic opioids, what we're finding is that with the increased pressure that DEA and all of our partners have continued to put on the two cartels that are primarily responsible for the fentanyl distribution or manufacture, smuggling, and distribution, Sinaloa and CJNG cartels in Mexico, they're still evolving also. So although we're getting on top of it, there's still new threats every day. There may be fentanyl now that is primarily leaving the form of a pill form or a counterfeit pill, prescription pill, makes its way into a powder format, or that can be mixed with other illegal recreational drugs, cocaine and heroin and methamphetamine, and even marijuana. But then we also find, because of how ruthless these cartels are and their idea that they want to do nothing but just make money, is they come up with other formats and other marketing techniques to produce the fentanyl that may be more attractive to users.
Talk to us about green fentanyl.
Green fentanyl is something that we're finding and kind of started finding a few months ago, especially in the New Orleans area, but we're seeing it start to spread now. And it's just another form of illegal fentanyl put into a format that may be more attractive to some users. It's similar to when fentanyl pills started to resemble candy or things that were attractive to younger people. Now this is another form that the cartels are going to put the fentanyl into, with the idea that maybe they can attract additional people to purchase and consume.
Okay, so it's no longer just about seizing drugs, though. We're talking about dismantling cartels, finances. So how does following the money change the fight against narcoterrorism?
These cartels that are primarily responsible for it, they're in this business for one reason. They're in the business to make money. And it costs so little to make a deadly dose amount of fentanyl. We're talking about pennies to produce that amount, but then be able to sell a pill, a counterfeit pill, for $10, $15, $25. You can imagine the amount of profits that are there. So there's only one reason that these cartels are in this business. And so if we were to only stop at putting the pressure on of trying to stop the supply chain, there's more to be made. There's more fentanyl to be made. So we also continue to put the pressure on from the real reason that the cartels are working, and that is to make the money. So when we take our time and investigate it from the money and able to seize assets and seize bank accounts and make sure that the reason that these cartels are working doesn't exist for them, puts even more pressure on them to not bring so much fentanyl or any fentanyl into the United States.
Okay, so are there cases in Mississippi where cutting off cartel funding has led to measurable reductions in drug availability?
I think, yes, that's absolutely true, because in the last 2 years, what we have seen, as you mentioned earlier, the drug overdose deaths are down to the lowest point that we've seen since 2020. But specifically, just released earlier this week by our partners over at CDC, all of drug overdose deaths have been down in the last 2 years, which is more than we've seen in decades now, to the point where pretty much across the entire country, we're seeing about a 20% reduction in overdose deaths. But specifically here in the state of Mississippi, we have gone from 573 in 2024 down to 463, which is about an 18% reduction. And we are certainly trending in the right direction here with all of the enforcement pressure, the education we're doing for Americans, and then also just everybody coming together to work together for a fentanyl-free America.
And we'll be right back. If you have comments or questions about today's show or suggestion for an interview or segment, just drop us a line. Email our producers. The address is news@WJTV.com. Big thanks to Senator Solly Norwood and Stephen Hoffer for joining us this week. We'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. From all of us here at 12 News, I'm Byron Brown. Make it a good night.